I'm really pleased to welcome Jacob Gibbins, who's come here today from Aspect Media, filmmaker, photographer of many things, adventure sports, action sports, and other things around the edges of that.
Yeah.
We're going to show just a little bit of a clip of some of his work to give you a flavour of the sort of things he does, and then we'll have a bit of a chat. I can't really see properly from down here, but I get the gist of it. So do you want to talk us through a little bit about what that was and how it fits into what you're doing?
That is the trailer for a feature-length mountain bike film that came out last year called Death Grip that Aspect Media was one half of producing. The other half is that company there, good friends of ours. And my business partner, the other half of Aspect, co-directed it, and then I was on a lot of the shoots as stills photographer and a drone pilot and C camera and various other things. But we're currently between show reels, so that was something short and snappy with lots of bikes in it, which pretty much sums it up.
Cool. So do you want to take us right back to how you started? So we talked a bit about how you got going when you were 17. What happened?
It all started riding bikes. Bikes came long before cameras, at the age of, God knows, 13 or whatever. And you just take the camera out to the woods with your friends to film and take pictures of you doing jumps. And I ended up just getting lumped with the camera more often than not because I kept getting the better pictures and stuff. And then I used to go to races competing. And as soon as my race run was over, I'd go and grab the camera from the car and run back up the hill to take pictures of all the other competitors. And slowly, I'd just post them online on forums before the days of Facebook and websites like Pink Bike and stuff like that, which is a massive cycling website. And they slowly just kind of got picked up by various news websites and magazines and blogs looking for pictures of the race winner or this, that and the other. And then at the age of 15, people are offering to pay me for pictures. And I was like, something's probably in here, so I should probably concentrate on taking as good pictures as I can.
So already before you were even thinking about being a professional photographer necessarily, people started to offer
Before I was thinking about being anything yeah. Before jobs were even a consideration, people were, can we use this picture for this? We'll give you 30 quid. And I'm like, great.
Sure.
You can have it for free if you want, but... Yeah.
You didn't say that, you took the 30 quid.
No, you take the 30 quid.
So then from there, what happened next?
Much of the same for a few years, but obviously the rate of progression in the quality of work I was producing was just going up super fast at the start. And so it was just a massive learning curve, all self-taught. It was even before the days of YouTube and stuff, so it properly was just trial and error. And then it kind of reached a point where the first few bike companies and stuff started saying, we need a shoot doing for our new catalogue. We've seen your pictures used on X magazine's race reports and stuff. Do you want to come and do that for us? And that was kind of where the first day rates started getting introduced.
So how did you know how to do that? Did they again,
I'm
was it
even
they
trying
offered
to
you an
think.
amount and you said, yeah, okay, that's fine?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Back then, I think it was 200, 300 quid or something like that. And it's like, I will gladly drive or get a train at that stage to North Wales off my own back to come and take pictures for you because I love doing it. But if someone offers you a few hundred quid for it, you say yes and think it's going to help pay for the train fare and stuff. And kind of snowballed, and a few years later it was somewhat more, it took a good few years to get used to the idea of being able to accept money for something you enjoy so much.
Yeah. But you've carried on doing that?
Yeah, no, definitely have. Christ, I'd be annoyed if I did something for free now.
Okay, do people ask you to do things for free or not now?
No, they still do all the time, and if it's for something that's going to get a lot of exposure, or it's for friends of mine, or there's charities involved, there's always a reason why you should say yes to doing work for free, but you need to be getting payment in some kind, whether that's exposure or getting introduced to new clients or whatever it is. It doesn't always need to be monetary.
So you started with stills photography. When did the filmmaking come in?
Probably after about, I don't know, 5, 7 years, something like that.
You were doing both at the same time?
To begin with, just
work?
photography, and then there was, it's always been both ever since. And it just kind of, I got to a point where companies were coming to me for photo shoots and saying, do you know someone who can do videos for us? And I kept on pawning them off to other people, or getting my friends to come and feature videos on the shoots, and then badging their videos with my logos, which kind of didn't sit right with either of us. So we thought, let's start a production company that's going to be kind of its own thing.
Yeah. So you started Aspect Media how long ago?
7 years, 6, 7 years.
And that was at the point where you were starting to make video?
Yeah, well, that was the point where I was starting to take on projects that needed both photo and video from the same client on the same job, and I just thought, we need to make a company that can offer that to people, because at the moment, Jacob Gibbins Photography at the time was kind of just photography.
Yeah. And so you work with one other person?
Aspect Media is 2 of us, myself and a guy called Chris Seeger. We're both kind of full-time on it, and then there's a whole network of our friends who own their own kind of small production companies, or freelancers in various different fields that we kind of draw on for various different projects.
And we were talking a bit about that earlier, about how important that is to you to have that group around you.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say yes to all the work because you're already booked on something, and if you say no to a client more than once or twice, they'll go and find someone else. Whereas if you can say, yeah, no, we can do that, I'm already busy, but we'll be sending someone else, and then call up someone from Metis and say, hey, you need to go and do this job for us, then they go and do it. Quite often they'll shoot it and we'll edit it, or if we're completely busy, they'll shoot and edit it. Or
do you think that's, again, we talked about the fact that what you're doing is a reasonably small niche. Do you think that's particular to the kind of action sports field, or do you think that's happening in production companies on other places as well?
No, because we do plenty of corporate work, and we just draw on friends of ours who are filmers, and it just, as the work gets less specific, the skill set of the filmer we get in can be less specific.
Okay.
So if we're just doing...
Expand on that a bit.
So we did a job the other week shooting lots of kind of previews for a museum's new exhibitions, and I needed a second shooter to come along, and so the list of people I could approach to come and be that second shooter is massive. Whereas if it's a very specific mountain biking shoot that needs them to be able to shoot action and ride a bike 30 miles a day with a heavy camera bag on, the list of people I can approach for that
it's quite small.
Are a lot smaller. So, but it's all the same kind of massive network of people. You just kind of work out who's good at doing what.
That's something that has come up with other speakers, actually, how important that is to be in a network and to have other people that you can just be sounding stuff out with and to drawing on for support?
Yeah, there's not a week goes by that I ask people, other people ask me, what kind of thing should I be quoting for this? What kind of price are we doing? What do you think of this draft? Blah, 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 bouncing ideas off people. And it gets to a point pretty early on, I'd say everyone here will be already making work better than you can produce as a lone person. So collaboration, work with people.
It's really key. Cool. Has anyone got any questions yet? Go on.
When you say like you're like cycling about plus a kit, how do you prioritise which kit you need to take out and about?
The further away from a car I am, the lighter the kit needs to be.
Sure.
And in the last few years, there's loads of cameras now that can properly shoot photos and video in the same body really well, and that makes my life a whole load easier. Before it was packing 2 cameras into a bag and strapping bags on bags and all the rest of it. And yeah, if it's a job where you're just half an hour's walk from a car, you can take big cinema cameras and Inspires and cinema lenses and Movies and whatever else. And if it's a job where you're cycling through Iceland for a week, I just took a 5D and an FS5 with like 2 lenses and a Mavic drone, and that's it. So yeah, if you've got to lug your camera up a 2,000-foot mountain, everything you put in that bag you think about.
Yeah.
Was that like when you started out, you were doing more stuff? Was that sort of like a learning curve, like how much stuff you were taking? Like, shit, I just can't take this stuff.
Oh, it still is.
Yeah.
Pretty much every time I go out, I don't take enough water. Water's heavy.
Water is really heavy.
Yeah.
And do you find yourself taking too much gear? Joe never takes too much gear, do you, Joe? Never. Nobody in this room ever takes too much gear.
Not too much now.
So it's something that you've kind of just honed what you need in your kit.
Yeah. And you can kind of, you work out your favourite lenses, your favourite bits of kit. And if I had to, you could shoot a whole job and come out with something professional with just a camera and a lens, 1 camera, 1 lens, and the client probably wouldn't know any different, but I wouldn't be as stoked with what I'd made, so.
Yeah. No, I've forgotten the question now. Anyone else got any questions while I remember what I was trying to say? Go on, Joe.
What was the transition like from coming from primarily stills background to working to shoot more video stuff? Did you find that?
Massive learning curve. Photos are easy. I'm allowed to say that. Video is so much more complex. There's so much more going on. So it was just surrounding myself with people who were better at it than I was, and being open to learning and tagging along on shoots and going on shoots for free because they were with people I really admired, and practicing. And the same as anything, sharing your work with people whose opinions you really value, listening to it, listening to their feedback, and working to be better, which is constant.
Yeah, you said, Joe asked you earlier, how often do you kind of feel like you're taking on a job that you don't know how to do? And you said pretty regularly. Yeah,
once or twice a year.
So what is it?
But it's not that you can't do, it's that you need to learn new things to do, and that you are just kind of breaking new ground. But I think taking on a job you don't think you can do is probably bad advice. But
taking on a job that
taking on a job you think you can do, but to do it justice is going to kind of really stretch you. That's the way to work.
What sort of things have come up for you over the years that have taken you that next learning step?
It's just lots of things in studios, because obviously I didn't really have formal background. So, and that's an environment that you don't really get put into unless someone's paid for the space, which tends to happen on the day of the shoot. Or in those situations, you look through your list of people that you know and you think, who do I know that's done lots of stuff in a studio that I can get in as a second camera, and that kind of stuff. And then once you've done a few, you're okay. Lots of work with motion graphics. Once you start working with kind of external graders and visual effects houses, just learning the whole post-process kind of train.
How to have the conversations even to get what you need.
Yeah, just everything's a learning curve all the way through. I think.
Stuff you're making now, how much of the job roles are you performing to what you're pushing out? You said there about calibrating and sound things. Are you finding, is it on the budget? Or are you finding
Yeah, it's completely dependent on client budget. If it's a small job with not much budget, then I'll grade it and I'll do the sound design. And if they want motion graphics, I either say I can do simple stuff, or if you want stuff that looks like this, it's going to cost you this much more.
Yeah.
And they make the choice. And on bigger jobs, I just film sometimes. On other jobs, I'll film and edit more kind of commonly, and then editing and sound design gets done externally. They're two things that are really amazing when done really well, grading and sound.
And so, but you do them, but you...
Yeah, I do them. I'm just not a professional colour grader or not a professional sound design wizard.
So
I do them enough to get the job done and produce good work, but if someone's got the budget for it and wants to really elevate their work, their job, then always get someone who specialises in doing it.
We talked a bit about, you said that there was a point where you stopped getting asked to take photographs because everybody's got a camera now.
Stopped being asked, no. Being asked a lot less regularly, yeah. I mean, for 7 years there was a full-time living to be made taking photos. God knows how many shoots a month, but enough to keep me fed and watered and housed. And it just started tailing off as kind of social media started booming and phones got better, and now you don't do magazine adverts so much as just social media adverts, which need to be less polished. And if you go out and spend 500 quid on a DSLR and watch some YouTube videos, you'll be able to take photos good enough to get the job done.
So how do you think that, have you got a feeling of what's going to happen with video over the next few years? Do you think there's a long way to go yet before?
It's so much more complex. I don't think it'll ever get to the same stage. Although, if and when computers start being able to edit videos properly, you can already kind of throw a folder of footage at a program and it'll put a crappy song underneath it and edit it with cuts in all the wrong places. But it'll probably reach a time when they can do it reasonably well, and then a lot of people's bread and butter work will disappear. But proper advertising, proper corporate videos, events coverage, whatever it is going to always need people that can...
Yeah. We're a long way before a robot can go up a mountain, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you're probably in the best place for that.
Yeah. I keep seeing these lists of jobs people think are going to get made obsolete in the next 10 years, and my job's yet to make the list, so...
That's good. Something we talked about was the fact that you followed your passion.
Yeah.
And how that's kind of led to you having a career. Can you talk back kind of through the stages? You talked a bit about how your income went as you grew in experience.
Yeah, I mean, starting out when I was 17, I was earning a perfectly normal amount for a 17-year-old who lived with his parents, and by the time I was 20-ish and looking to move to Bristol, and I'd have to pay rent and all my own food and stuff, that was like achievable with what I was earning. So the earnings have always just kind of been almost an afterthought to doing what I want to a level that I'm happy with. It's just do good work, push it out there, and I mean, touch wood, the work's always just keeps coming through the door, which is great.
Have you got, the other thing we talked about was the balance between, because a lot of your work is seasonal, so talk a bit about the balance between what you do in the summer and the winter.
So mountain biking is only really possible in the summer, so I spend most of my summers in the northern hemisphere, bits of time over winter in the southern hemispheres. But like any filmmaking pretty much, Christmas, kind of December, January are quiet months. So it's during those months I just, like most people, find it very hard to have downtime. I always feel guilty for doing nothing and feel like I should be doing something. So I have a week or so of forced relaxation, and then normally...
Sounds very relaxing, forced relaxation.
Yeah, and then take on a personal project or something while I'm time rich, and that normally kind of carries on a bit too long. The one we're currently doing has been 2 winters worth. And a short film, sort of 15 minutes long, of a couple of our friends, my good friends, who rowed across the Atlantic in a little 2-man rowing boat.
So you didn't go with them, presumably?
Hell no. They shot it all on GoPros, and that was more than enough.
So you're taking all that footage and making a documentary out of it?
An absolute nightmare, because they shot not with the idea of a film ever being made, so they didn't shoot the right stuff. They shot the good bits and the funny bits, and they shot it all in the wrong frame rates and the wrong aspect ratios, and quite a lot of the time they had their finger over the microphone doing interviews, and they didn't shoot any of the hard bits which make a story worth watching.
Yeah.
When they're busy being caught in hurricanes and capsized, they weren't really reaching for the cameras, which made our job a lot harder. But
so is it nearly ready to release?
yeah, there's a 90% version. It's just titles and graphics and stuff going on.
And those kind of more personal projects you do, what do you do with them? Where do they go?
YouTube, Vimeo, it's up to the people in them to decide. This one we'll probably send to film festivals for 6 months or so and then put it online.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it depends. But
do you know what's lined up for next winter?
no, not a clue. I generally, kind of the tail end of summer, just start keeping an eye out for interesting people or stories. Yeah.
So what have you got planned? Have you got big things coming up this summer for your Aspect Media work?
Our bread and butter is
about?
doing Enduro World Series, which is like a 10-part race series. Each race is kind of somewhere else around the world, and we go and do all of their video content, which makes its way online onto various different TV networks and stuff like that. So that's 12 weeks of the summer taken up.
Back to back travelling, pretty much?
Not back to back. There's normally kind of roughly one a month. The far-flung ones tend to be back to back. So you'll do in New Zealand. So I go next week. I've got 2 weeks holiday with the other half, and then she flies home and I stay out and do a week's race in New Zealand, and then straight after another week in Tasmania. Because they're flying the whole circus to the other side of the world.
So they can do everything they can while they're there.
Yeah, might as well only make people buy it once. And then, other than that, it's loads of corporate work, adverts, kind of.
So when you say corporate work, what sort of clients are you working for?
Almost most of the bike companies. I thought that was me for a second. Loads of bike companies, all the big energy drinks, Red Bull and Monster, and
so adverts, product stuff?
Yeah.
Anything they want?
Anything. Generally, most people now, adverts don't generally go anywhere other than online.
Yeah.
They're just for YouTube channels and websites and all that kind of stuff. Social media, product launches, all that kind of stuff.
So are you involved in the kind of creative planning of those things, or do they come to you with a very strong idea of what they want?
Very rarely. It'd be nice if they did.
Or come with what they want?
Yeah.
They just go, hey, make us an advert?
Yeah, a lot of the time they say, we need an advert making for this new bike we're doing. It needs to be 3 minutes long, or it needs a 3-minute version, a 1-minute version, a 30-second version. And then the behind the scenes, what do we do?
Yeah.
And then we kind of have a couple of phone calls between Chris and myself and work out kind of what creative ideas we think will work. Also what kind of creative ideas we've been dying to do.
Yes.
Kind of.
Can we squeeze one of those into this?
Yeah, like, oh, it wouldn't it be awesome if we could hire a studio and do this crazy idea? And yeah, it would. Let's just wait until a client with a big enough budget comes along that we can work it into. And then give the ideas to the client, generally give them a few options at different kind of price points and levels of madness and let them decide and then meet in the middle somewhere.
Have you got clients who do pick the mad ideas or?
Yeah, you
Good.
do. And generally they're the clients that you really want to work for. There are clients who always want a million changes, always go for the boring ideas, always want to take all of the good shots out of the video. And then there's clients who are always willing to kind of try new things, be creative. Yeah. And it goes both ways. Sometimes the really shit videos end up doing really well and everyone's puzzled, and sometimes the creative ones get the recognition they deserve. And
there's no logic to the thing sometimes, is there?
No.
Dan, you got a question?
Yeah, so you mentioned about budgets. What kind of budgets are you working, say, for a mountain bike program, say for a bike program? How much are you recommending for?
Anything from 1,000 to 15, 20. It completely depends. If someone comes and just wants a kind of short and snappy video of their sponsored rider on their bike in South Wales, just riding down a hill, that's going to appeal to a very core audience of mountain bikers, then that's just me going out and filming for a day and then a couple of days of editing. The people that watch it aren't going to really care about high-end colour grading and sound design, so the budgets will be £1,000 or whatever. And if it's a massive global bike company doing a launch for their new bike, which has been 3 years in development and needs to appeal to cyclists the world over, then that's when the budgets start going up, because they need to invest in motion graphics or visual effects or studio time to show off the product better. And
do you have a preference for either end of the scale, or is the blend?
Yeah. Who was I saying this? I had a meeting with another production company this morning, and saying to them, variety's the spice of life, really, especially with creative work. If you do just boring corporate videos or weddings, day in, day out, the year round, you'll hate doing weddings. Yeah. If you do them every few months interspersed with loads of other stuff, everything stays exciting and interesting. So, yeah. Can
you imagine getting bored of doing downhill mountain biking? Not yet.
Not yet. I can imagine getting bored of doing the same kind of content regularly. If I had to just make like how-to videos for a YouTube channel day in, day out, that'd just get a bit boring. I know friends that do it. I go and do freelance editing for various different companies and production companies that do it day in, day out. And if I've not got much on that week and they offer me some work doing it, it's fine. But I wouldn't want to do it all the time.
Fair enough.
But then doing massive, huge kind of 20 grand corporate jobs constantly, you'd get burnt out. They're so full on, they're so intense.
So you need the rhythm to be able to get a rest in between.
Yeah. A week doing boring editing
in an office somewhere, welcome respite.
Sometimes very welcome, yeah.
Anyone else got any questions at this stage?
Do you ever turn things down for that reason? You've done too many of it, or you'll find, or it's something that doesn't excite you? And do you have that luxury of just taking on jobs that you find exciting now?
Yes, I do, and it is a luxury, and I'm very fortunate to have got to the point where I can do it. But the first sort of 5-10 years or whatever, it kind of starts out where you have to say yes to everything and build your brand and get your name out there. And as you get more and more established and start getting more and more work offers, it gets to the point where if I said yes to everything, I'd never have a day off. And it's at that point you start raising your rates to try and put some people off.
So what's the last thing you turned down?
Can you say?
Yeah, I can. A trip to Patagonia.
What?
And I'd have been there now. But
Why?
I'd just been in South Africa for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And it would have meant I'd have been home for less than 48 hours. And then in Patagonia for 2 weeks, home for less than 48 hours. And then in New Zealand for a month.
Wow.
And completely my needs beside. I've got a girlfriend and all the rest of it. You can't be away that much. I'm making more than enough money to be comfortable. I need to be greedy.
Again. How many days of the year you're in the UK rather than away?
Enough to pay tax, annoyingly. Yeah. Normally like 4 or 5 months of the year abroad when you look at the days, but that's kind of very heavily spread over the summer. This year, probably going to be about the same, possibly more so, because there's a few big trips where I'm kind of tagging on some holiday as well as the work stuff. But yeah, luckily the girlfriend's been with me since day zero, so
she
it's
knows
been.
what she's in for.
If you kind of you know what you're getting yourself in for, I'll be away quite a lot.
The tax thing reminded me that one of the things you mentioned was that balance between being basically a sole trader, or you're kind of not in a partnership even, you're in a collaboration with one other person, and then what might happen in the future. The thought process that goes through your mind about how you might grow or move forward.
Lots of meetings with accountants and lots of deciding what we want to be doing in the future. We could expand and say yes to everything and just hire people to do the smaller jobs, but then we would end up kind of, whether we liked it or not, taking on more of a managerial role, dishing the jobs out, finding the work, because once you're paying someone's wages, it's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. So you're going to want to be finding the work to keep them employed, and we just thought, not yet. No.
And is that something that is interesting as you are thinking about a freelance career, is whether that's what you want or not? And it is, some people, that's exactly what you want, and others they don't. So it's when early stage of your career to think that actually you can continue down that sole trader freelance route all your working life if you want to.
I mean, we quoted for a couple of big jobs this winter, just gone, not looking like they're going to come off unless they spring it on us last minute, in which case I'll be running around like a headless chicken all year. But and they're sort of like 80,000-90,000 pound kind of feature-length film kind of projects, including loads of shooting throughout the whole summer. And it's at those kind of points where we would bring someone on, salaried, but only
for the period of the project.
Only on that contract basis. And so you just
that's quite a good hybrid way of doing it in a way.
If a job came in that was big enough that we needed more people full time, we'd just hire them on a contract basis. Yeah. Which is kind of, like you say, the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Poppy.
How did you find the whole process of going from being a filmmaker to being someone who is suddenly responsible for a business? So you're talking now about like offering contracts to people and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously that comes with a whole other set of pressures and responsibilities.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Because obviously you started off just riding a mountain bike and having fun with your mates.
I mean, it just slowly snowballs, doesn't it? You end up going to the occasional kind of business-related seminar or talk or something, and meeting people, or kind of some of my friends have gone down that route and started businesses, so you can ask their advice and all that kind of stuff. Lots of meeting with accountants and lots of meetings with people crazy high up in marketing departments and listening to what they need and what they want, and you just kind of going back to the point of how many times do we take on jobs that we think, fuck, can we really do this? It's very much like that, yeah.
Have you ever had to write a business plan?
I did one right at the start, I don't think I've looked at it. I got involved with the Prince's Trust really early on when I was like 16 or something, and wrote one as part of that. And had a business mentor for a year or two when I was starting out. I think I saw them like 3 or 4 times.
Did that help, do you think?
Probably. I can't remember anything of what they said, but it might have helped at the time, might have made me slightly more confident in kind of sending out those initial quotes or doing the initial kind of business-sided stuff. I'm
just keeping an eye on time. Anyone else? Joe?
Having known you quite a while, and you've always been like pretty on top of like your sort of online presence and pushing out online, and even when you're not working, like filming in public, you're quite on top of what's going on with there and doing that thing. How much would you say that is important to you, what you've accomplished in front of people, and what influence that has been, being very on top of that sort of thing?
It's a love-hate relationship. I mean, when we I've known Jo since you're like 14. As it started out, when social media was in its infancy, being online and being kind of very proactive with your online presence was really beneficial because everything was so new. So if you put up a blog, it would get loads of views because there weren't that many out there, and now they're so watered down. I mean, just do good work, put it out on a channel, Instagram, Facebook, Vimeo, a blog, wherever, so that the people that want to know what you're doing can follow it. And other than that, I just try to be on it as little as possible. It's I'm too bad for being on my phone.
Yeah, it's a
Everyone
real.
is.
I think it's a real period now of that, getting that balance right.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic way of getting your work out there, potentially, but it's also a fantastic way of wasting a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, starting out is definitely much more important.
Yeah.
We're now at a point where most of our business comes from repeat business, word of mouth.
Yeah.
Kind of a marketing manager at Brandex that we've just done something for that he really liked will talk to his marketing manager mates in other companies and that kind of stuff. So I can't remember the last time we did any kind of paid advertising or sponsored posts and stuff like that. But yeah.
Have you ever had any periods where you think, oh God, we've got no work on?
Every December and January, like I say, and then you think, actually, hold on a minute. I've got more than enough set aside to put me on until the first few jobs of next year are already booked in. And
so you've always got things booked for the beginning of the next season?
Not always, no.
But nearly always?
Yeah, exactly. It's a kind of one of those faces and fingers crossed.
Yeah.
If you took away the race series and the events coverage, even now I'm kind of living on a 2-month basis.
How many? 2?
Yeah,
2 months.
3 months. In terms of booked in work, in terms of savings, it's more than that. But then.
Yeah, one thing you said to me, how much have you ever been in debt?
0.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I thought about you when you told me that earlier, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I know has got student debt, and it doesn't seem to be a thing. You don't pay it back until you're earning enough that even when they start taking it off you, it doesn't really get noticed. But no, not even credit card debt or loans or anything. I've never really been fortunate enough, again, touch wood, to never have to go into debt.
But it's interesting, that idea that you grew as much as you could. It was like you cut your cloth to suit what you can do. You know, the thing is that you're doing everything you can.
It was very organic growth in the business. It was just buy the kit you can afford, kind of do the best work you can with it, and that will bring in some money through jobs. And then obviously at the start you're just investing everything you earn in more equipment, and then it gets to the stage where you can go a year or so without buying kit, and then you can start saving stuff like houses and cars and boring stuff. But no, and now it gets to the point where I'm kind of putting a bit of money away every paycheck that goes into the kind of kit fund, and some in the tax fund and the bathroom fund and the whatever else. Budgeting and all that is so important as a freelancer.
Yeah. Go on.
I was going to ask whether you rent or buy equipment, where you kind of answered the question.
Yeah, I'm amazingly lucky to get a bit of money early from my mum a couple of years ago, which was the deposit to a house. And I mean, even doing what I did, it was kind of stretching myself financially and the girlfriend to buy a place in Bristol. But yeah, bought a place, fantastic. But for 5-6 years before that, I was renting in Bristol. Nothing wrong with renting at all. Everyone does it. If I hadn't have been given that money, I basically said to my mum, can I have some of my inheritance early because I want to buy a house? And she said, yeah, go on then. So
Top tip.
If I hadn't have gone and asked for it, she'd have probably kept it until she popped her clogs, but like most people do.
Yeah.
But
sensible.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've got a good head for money naturally, so running a business hasn't been
somewhat.
a stretch.
Again, that's from my mum, luckily. But yeah, I've never had an issue with the finances of running a business. I've always been quite good business mind, which I guess didn't really realise so, but
Until you got started.
Mm.
What are your aspirations for where you might be in sort of 5 years' time? Do you think like that?
Yeah. I mean, no, I don't really have a 5-year plan as such.
3 years? Not like, but yeah.
No.
If you're 5 years' time and you're doing something you absolutely love, what would you be doing?
Exactly what I'm doing now, but just it's kind of in the last 2 years got to the point where it pretty much is what I'm doing now. The clients list will just get slightly more kind of big name clients, and the day rates might raise slightly, but no, just more of the same. More of the same. Enough work to keep me going.
Cool. Go on.
Do you, obviously because your job is very active, do you ever worry about when you're older you won't be able to do the same things that you do now?
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of putting as much money away as I can now for retirement with the hope of being able to do it slightly early.
Yeah.
But as I get older, there's people I know that do what I do and they're in their 40s. You just kind of have to really prioritise your health and fitness. So anytime there's anything remotely wrong with me, I'm straight to a chiropractor or a doctor or getting sports massage or, health is super important for me.
Yeah.
But I suppose as I get older and maybe less physically active, I'll just say no to the really active ones and pass them off to younger people and say yes to the more boring jobs that at the moment I say no to. Yeah, exactly. Or I'll just, Christ, when kids and stuff come along, that's a bloody 5-year plan. When all that happens, things might start changing and I might start saying yes to the more Bristol-based editing jobs or whatnot.
Yeah, but you can still go and be in the places. You don't have to necessarily be on the bike.
No, exactly. Or I just have to go away less, I suppose.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or just pay for a babysitter.
for two months.
For 2 weeks or whatever.
Go on.
For students, if you feel like the direction you want to go into, do you think it's good just to go like tunnel vision, like a niche? Or would you say like try and get as many skills as possible or like establish yourself in a niche?
Kind of try and do both. Spread yourself thin in terms of just working with loads of people in loads of different areas, like if you know a guy doing a feature length or some music videos or whatever it is, kind of go along and help out and be in those environments and learn. But on the side, you should be focusing on kind of a niche. Having a niche and getting well known in that niche is going to, in my opinion, do you better than just being another filmer that shoots corporate kind of events.
So you need something that differentiates you from
everyone else.
Everyone else.
Like I was saying to you earlier, I still do jobs doing corporate stuff like going and shooting in a museum or going and doing a charity corporate event. And for those jobs, I got it through word of mouth or whatever it was, but there's 1,000 people that could do that job just as well as I did. Whereas the mountain biking side of stuff, because it's such a niche and I've spent a while working up in it, there's only 10 or 20 people that could do that. So, and with a niche and being one of a fewer number of people, obviously you get better money. If there's more competition, you can't charge as much.
It's interesting, I thought about it like that.
Mm.
Anyone else?
How do you find working in Bristol? I mean, pretty much work today like your whole life, because obviously the attraction is massively drawing you into London.
Yeah. I had a meeting this morning with a kind of visual effects and grading company who've just in the last month opened an office in Bristol. They've got a big one in London that employs 30 or something people and one in LA. And now they've opened one in Bristol, which is kind of crazy. But more and more people are flooding here, especially from London. I'm fortunate enough that Bristol's just a base. It's kind of where I sit and edit and have a home and go down the pub with my mates and stuff, but it's not necessarily where I do a lot of my work.
So you could be anywhere for that, really.
Yeah, I could. I could live anywhere in the world with a decent internet connection, really.
And an airport.
Yeah, being near an airport's good. I don't think I could live more than 2 hours from a major hub airport, which is kind of a depressing fact for choosing where you live, but hey-ho. Like to live out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, but yeah, I'd spend half my life driving to airports.
Yeah. So, anyone else got any other questions before I ask some more? Go on, you guys. Nick, go on.
I was just going to say, what would like your dream project kind of be?
Wow.
That was one of my questions.
Sorry.
Something for a company that's globally known enough that it's going to get the kind of views you as someone who's made something you're proud of want it to get. If you make an incredible project for a tiny little startup, it might be incredible, but it might also just never get the traction. Whereas if you do something amazing for Red Bull, it's going to end up getting millions of views. Vice versa, if you do something crap for Red Bull, it can also not get any views at all. Something for a big company with a big enough budget to do what we want to do the way we want to do it. And it would probably be mountain biking related with some really crazy studio visual effects and stuff. There's a lot of stuff in mountain biking that doesn't have the budget or the need for crazy visual effects or CGI and stuff like that, because it's very much selling a real world product in real world locations. So
Doesn't need the fantasy.
no, but maybe something that works those two in together would be pretty cool. That's something we haven't done a whole lot of. But CGI is hella expensive, so yeah.
Mine's a bit of an EWS kind of specific, but so where you go for those is quite an extreme environment in most cases.
Yeah.
What's it like trying to cope with those environments and the tight turnarounds that you have?
Relying on good equipment really makes a difference. Trusting your kit to work and not underestimating Mother Nature when you're up a mountain, having camera covers, rain covers, ponchos for yourself and down jackets, because it can go from 20 degrees and sunny to a hailstorm and -5 in like an hour or something. And if you're up a mountain, you might be without kind of any way of getting out of that situation for a matter of hours.
So good prep. So
Yeah,
you're
just
not
good-
just going as a camera person, you've got to be...
Yeah, you kind of have to almost go as a mountaineer
Yeah.
with a camera and looking after your camera and making it able to work in every
temperature,
temperature,
rain.
every kind of
Yeah.
weather you're going to get thrown at you, because doing bike races, you'll get every weather thrown at you.
Have you had any occasions where it's all gone horribly wrong?
Again, touch wood, no. What a question, thanks for that. I'm going
Sorry.
to the first race next week.
Sure, it'll be fine.
No, generally not. I mean, you run out of food and you end up doing what they call bonking, where you just run out of energy, and you don't take enough water, or you get stuck out in the high Andes where there's not any shade to be found anywhere, and you forgot your sun
oxygen,
cream and you look
or-
like me, which wasn't a good choice.
So you've had personal physical disasters, but you've still got the footage.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's dedicated.
Yeah, well, I mean, if someone's paying you to go all the way around the world and whatnot, you kind of have to put that first. But a couple of our colleagues have ended up falling off and crashing at a race and breaking their arm, and then obviously the team's one camera down and everybody else has to kind of adapt and take up the slack and stuff. So I guess it'd be that. That's what had happened.
You told a story about, where it nearly went wrong.
The first time,
Yeah.
second ever commercial shoot when I was like 16. We'd done a whole day's shooting, taken thousands of photos. At the end of the day, the client comes up to me and says, "Amazing, well done, that's a wrap. Let's have a look at some pictures on the back of the camera." And I go to get the camera out and there's nothing there. The card's blank. And I just said, oh, sorry, all the batteries are dead. I can't show you. I'll send you them tomorrow. And then had to get a train back from North Wales to Devon, which was like 5 or 6 hours of just nail-biting terror. Basically just researching the whole way home, file recovery and the best software and all this kind of stuff, and paying companies thousands of pounds to get stuff off cards. And I got home, and luckily I only lost 2 or 3 of the files, and the client never knew.
The staying cool under pressure thing was key.
Yeah, I must have kept it cool. I definitely wasn't keeping it cool. But no. And other than that, less serious ones. Even just last week, I shot a whole job in ProRes RAW and then realised that Premiere doesn't read ProRes RAW. And then I had to run around Bristol for 2 days trying to find someone that could transcode it to get it edited in time to then get delivered to the client and stuff. So nothing serious, but just hiccups.
Do you quite like that problem-solving side of things? Do you think that's important?
I like it when I get to the
other side.
Yeah, get to the other side and it works out. When it doesn't go right and you have to message a client saying, really sorry, there's been a mix-up, we might need to reshoot something. Obviously, you can't charge them for that, so you have to take the hit. I think fortunately that's happened once or twice, if that, but they're never good.
I guess in your niche, being able to stay cool in actually quite a fast-moving environment is pretty important.
Yeah. Going back to injuries and stuff, there's been a whole heap of times where riders have injured themselves near me, and quite often if you're up in the mountains on like a 10-kilometre bike track and they happen to crash in front of me, I'm the only person for 5 kilometres in any direction, so it's up to me to help deal with it.
Yeah.
Quite often I've got radios through to race support and stuff, but no, I'm first aid trained and stuff, and I've had to use it a few times.
Yes, the whole side of things you might not necessarily think that you would be doing.
No, exactly. No, and in the racing, there's a rider that goes down, and then a minute or two later, another rider, and it's their protocol that if a rider crashes and a rider finds them, the first one goes to the bottom to alert for help, and the next rider stays with them.
Okay.
So
there is
all of this kind of stuff
that
we're part of and have to deal with.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think we've had a good chunk of your time. Unless anyone else has got any last questions, we'll wrap up.
In the very early days, how early on were you just like pushing stuff out and sharing stuff online with whoever you could? And do you think people, what we would do is it can be quite hard to not share stuff and be a bit scared, or do you think how important that is just to make sure you push stuff out?
I think you can definitely overshare, and you can definitely share stuff that's not ready to be seen. Only share the very best of what you're producing, and share it with kind of a very small group of your colleagues and stuff in its draft forms or whatever, get feedback on it. Even finished videos, you should kind of bounce through a few people before it makes its way onto the wider web. But no, just share the very best of your work and share it with, once it is the good work, share it with as many people as you can. That's
one of the things that we're really working with students to do, is to do exactly just like you just said, share it with your close group first till it's really good, and then once it's done, really push it out, because it's easy to think, oh, I've finished it now, and then, but there's still work to be done once it's out in the world, to actually let people know you've done it.
Yeah, I mean, in our world, it's working with big magazines, big websites, big blogs, kind of all those kind of people, the outlets with millions of daily users and stuff. They're the people that...
So they're doing that work for you?
Well, yeah, they are the end kind of goal for a lot of these companies. Company X comes to us and wants to make an advert for their bike, as well as it going on their website and their social media channels with, 50, 100,000 people. It's the websites that get millions of views a day from everyone in the industry that's the end goal, and that's where the client having a relationship with these people helps. We having a relationship with these, quite a lot of people come to us over another company because we have relationships personally with these websites. So
It's not just about the quality of your work, it's also about the quality of your relationship building. It's
Yeah,
really
so
important.
if we make a video and it goes out, it might stand a slightly higher chance of going on these websites than if another person
Yeah.
makes it. Because it's in their interest slightly to kind of scratch our back so that when they need us to come and do all of their videos for a big race they're putting on or an event they're covering,
You'll say yes.
we'll say yes, we'll fit it in around other stuff, we'll do them rates and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Cool. What's your kind of top tip for someone who's just starting out?
I'd say make work you're really proud of. It is worth the extra bit of kind of effort on shoot day to get the extra kind of 10%. Show it to people you trust. When it's the finished product and it's good, share it as far and wide as possible. Be pretty hot on marketing yourself. Learn when to say no. Learn when to say yes to stuff for free. Try not to work for free very often. Charging a fair rate is kind of way better for you than just doing something for really cheap.
Yeah.
Once this client knows you as the guy that did it for 100 quid, you're never going to be anything more than that to them.
Yeah.
So it's keep saying yes to their low paid work or find new clients.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go in at a rate you're happy with, you'll just end up getting lots more repeat clients.
That's a lot of top tips. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's really brilliant. And
No
we'll
problem.
do thank you in the way we say thank you. Thanks.
Thanks very much.